And for more insight on what we witnessed today, we're joined in the studio by former U.S. Attorney Guy Lewis. And Guy, thank you for being here. We witnessed 9 hours of drama during both testimonies by Judge Kavanaugh and by Christine Blasey Ford. What was your impression?
Elliot, it was gut-wrenching. Very much so like we did when we were analyzing a case as prosecutors. You had witnesses come in sometimes that would give you diametrically opposed positions. I mean, I hate to admit this, but I listened to her and I believed her, and then I listened to Judge Kavanaugh and I believed him. So what is one to do? What do you do under those circumstances when both sides make compelling, powerful arguments? As prosecutors, we would always then look to the corroborating or lack of corroborating evidence and the circumstances surrounding the allegation. Very tough, though, Day. I've never seen anything like it.
But at least in the court of public opinion today was very much about credibility, which one of them was the most credible. So I want to play a little bit of sound from both of them today. We can kind of take a listen.
Good morning, Dr. Ford.
It is not my responsibility to determine whether Mr. Kavanaugh deserves to sit on the Supreme Court. My responsibility is to tell you the truth.
So what you are telling us is this could not be a case of mistaken identity?
Absolutely not.
I never had any sexual or physical encounter of any kind with Dr. Ford. I never attended a gathering like the one Dr. Ford describes in her allegation. I've never sexually assaulted Dr. Ford or anyone.
So it sounds like you're saying both of them came across credible to you, so now you would go to the corroborating or lack of corroborating evidence. So are you saying this is kind of weighing more heavily in Judge Kavanaugh's favor?
I do, Ruta Bay, only because we look at the jury. You've got two juries that are basically being worked here. One is the public opinion, the jury of public opinion. And two, you have to look at the Senate itself, both the committee and then the entire body. Listen, like it or not, the Republicans hold a majority. So if they stand firm, if they hold together, if you don't have one or two of these Republicans that sort of break off from the majority and you count the votes, I have to believe that he's gonna get in.
Yeah, that's the key, whether those swing vote senators, Senator Collins from Maine, Senator Murkowski from Alaska, and a couple of other senators, if they can be swayed. I was wondering what you thought about the way Judge Kavanaugh presented himself. He came across as angry, very emotional and angry. Do you think that was effective?
I think at times, because you look at it, and if a person is accused falsely of such a heinous crime, and that's what this is. I mean, make no doubt about it. Her allegation is just Dr. Ford's and not the other two, is a sexual attack. I mean, a predator, if you believe her allegations. And then you stack the other two ladies who've come forward and made very, very serious allegations, including the last one calling him basically a gang rapist, if you believe her. Then the question becomes, as you sit down and talk to Judge Kavanaugh, is what is the measured response? Is it indignity? Should you be angry as a result of being falsely accused? Certainly, the Republicans would say yes, and by the end, what's interesting, by the end of the hearing, they actually started to refer to and posture Judge Kavanaugh as the victim here. Wasn't that interesting? To take the victim, the allegation of the victim, and turn it around and make Judge Kavanaugh the victim.
It almost seemed to me like he was coming off that way from the very beginning, that he was kind of positioning his opening statement in that way, framing it in that way.
I think you're right, Ruta Bay, and what fascinated me about it is the information that came out during the hearing that in D.C. there is no statute of limitations for this kind of sexual offense. So could it be investigated even after he's confirmed? Maybe. Now,
He went last, and I heard one of the analysts say that that's an effective tactic as an attorney. Do you believe that that has an impact on whether it's the jury or the senators or the public, the impression that they are left with by hearing from him last?
100%, Elliot. So as prosecutors, we used, in our closing arguments, we used to go first and we used to get rebuttal. We used to go last. And you better believe I used to save some of the nuggets for the rebuttal, because you got to have the last word. How important is the last word in an argument, especially when it might be close to 50-50 like you've got here?
It could come down to that.
It could.
I'm curious what you think about Rachel Mitchell. She was the prosecutor brought in from Maricopa County in Arizona to ask questions on behalf of the Republican senators. Did you think that was an effective strategy? She got 5 minutes, and then she was interrupted by a question from the opposite side of the aisle, and then would go back to continue her line of questioning. Rutabaga,
I really didn't, to be candid with you. I understand the thought. The thought is you've got, in some instances, 70, 80, 85-year-old men up there that are may come across as attacking Dr. Ford. You don't want that image. However, I wasn't sure what she was driving at, how she was trying to question the witness. Was she trying to extract information? Was she trying to cast doubt on Dr. Ford's testimony? Was she trying to cast doubt? I mean, I was sort of lost there when I was trying to figure out what her role was.
Well, some would say that her role was just to have, so that the Republican senators wouldn't have to question Christine Blasey Ford. I want to ask you, if Judge Kavanaugh is confirmed, and he is on the Supreme Court, is there such thing as a judge being tainted? Is this something that is still something that may haunt him in the future, or is this all behind him once he's on the court?
Boy, oh boy, that's a great question. Who will ever think about and remember the Clarence Thomas judgeship and not think about Anita Hill? How could you ever, even if he gets confirmed, how could you ever think about Judge Kavanaugh and not think about what we saw today? It was remarkable. I've never seen anything like it.
A lot of us haven't. Guy Lewis, thank you very much for your insight. Thank you for joining us.